Welcome to another episode of the WeakLEE Podcast. And November is National Caregivers Month. I didn't know nothing about that, but my mom, she knows everything about being a caregiver and wanted to do another episode on here. So, how you heard about it being National Caregivers Month, Mom?
I was invited to a brunch one time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was AKA. They had a caregivers brunch. I
Uh-huh.
was invited to, so I went, and it was nice to celebrate caregivers, um, whether it was caregiving to a spouse, a child, any family member, friend, whatever. And I attended that.
All right, was.
It was good. It was very. I felt celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
I felt appreciated, and it was a good environment to be in, and to see other people um, in some way or another were, caregivers as well, and they had men there too.
Mm.
Yep, they had men there.
So, how or what is your perspective on being a young caregiver, and how do you feel like it affected you as an adult?
Well, I was a caregiver to my mom, who suffered, my mom who suffered
Yeah.
from bipolar disorder, and mm, in most cases, you hear people talk more about an adult caregiving, for someone or to someone. You rarely hear about it from the perspective of a child. Children at times are thrust into a caregiver's role for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. A parent could have had cancer, um, could have been injured, or whatever. It depends on the dynamics of the family. It could have been, in my situation, I was raised with a single mother,
Mm-hmm.
so there was no adult figure in the home. So I was her caregiver. So it can come from different situations, to cause for a child to be in a caregiver's role. And your episode recently with Mimi,
Mm-hmm.
she mentioned she was,
Yeah, had to grow up
yeah,
quick because she was raised with her aunt that was blind and
a blind, but
had
she
to.
still had to caregiver because she
Yeah.
was what, her eyes, her
Mm-hmm.
hands. She went to the grocery store. That's caregiving.
Right.
It may not be nothing physically caregiving all the time, but there's different ways of caregiving.
And is that what made you want to write your book?
What inspired me to write the book was I was bringing your brother to school one morning,
All
right?
right.
And we got on the interstate right here in New Orleans East on Bullard Avenue. So when we got on the interstate, there was this car that just zoomed past us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, zipping in and out of traffic, in and out of traffic. And it caught my attention, right? Because I wanted to be careful. I'm like, wait, I don't want this person to hit us,
Right.
because you can see they were just erratic. It just didn't seem normal for them to be driving like that. I know people speed, but it was just a different kind of speed, okay? The car stopped in the middle of the interstate and got out the car. And it was a female, it was a woman, and she just stood there. Of course, cars, you know, hitting on their brakes real hard, or either trying to get out the
Yeah.
way of not hitting the car or her. And Darius was like, "What's wrong with that woman?" And I'm like, "I know what's wrong with her." It brought back a memory,
Yeah.
a flashback, because I can remember moments when my mom, when she had her illness moments, she would just want to drive, but she didn't drive normally. It was always this hurriedness, speed, just reckless.
Yeah.
I'm like, man. So with that, I came home later that day and I started writing. I always did journal because I always wanted to um, Always had a diary when I was young. So journaling for me was just something that I just enjoyed doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just believe in writing what I was going through on paper. And so I started writing because it triggered something in me, and I'm like, hmm. And I started writing about my journey with my mom having a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And from that's what really inspired me. But it was actually a setup too, because I was thinking I was writing more about the mental illness part, but it was more of me writing about
Your life.
my life,
Mm-hmm.
and what I went through. Especially after Daddy read some of my writings in the beginning. He said, "You know what? This is not really about your mom. It's about you."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "You think so?" He said, "Yeah, it's about you. Read it again." So, but that was the beginning of me writing the book, or wanting, of being inspired to do it.
Yeah, so it come from your hurt.
Exactly. As a child.
Mm.
Because I never really put it down in writing. I know over time I've, went through some things I'm not proud of. But I had to go through that. I really believe I had to go through that. I did.
Yeah, I could relate because that's why I started all this, from what I went through.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
pain is a launching pad to a lot of things. It gives us a different perspective, different opportunities. We don't think nothing can grow from pain, but it does.
pain makes us who we are.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And it's not always bad. But it's all about how you navigate what you want to do with it.
Right.
Because a lot of people could use their pain and hurt other people, or, add pain, make things better.
True. That's true. And another thing that I realized too is that even though I didn't want, I miss out on a lot with that, in my life, going through that period of time.
What you mean missed out on what?
Because I wasn't really a child.
Right. You had to grow up early.
I had to grow up early. And then as time went on, I was more serious.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to have fun. It's like my childhood stopped at like 11 years old. Because she was diagnosed when I was in the 7th grade, or just about in the 7th grade. So it was like in 80, 81, or maybe 81, 82. It was in the early 80s. And back then, a lot of people, at least for me, from where the perspective I had, I didn't hear a lot about mental illness, or I just was unaware of it, And as years later on down the road, mental illness is a generational thing in our family.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of other people who had mental illness, or they just act different or strange, but they didn't call it mental illness. They just say, "Oh, that person have bad understanding," or how they act sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Attributed to just an act.
Yeah,
not looking at it as a possible problem.
But that's because a lot of people we normally are raised on doing with problems, sweeping underneath the rug.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna think nothing serious with it because you ain't really worried about it.
Exactly.
And you don't want to really try to fix it or see what's really going on.
Mm-mm. And a lot of adults in our family at the time, they knew something was wrong, but they didn't know how to deal with it. And I don't blame them, because if you don't know, how you gonna fix it if you don't know? Yeah. And they didn't seek the help to even want to know either. But I was left to seek it out for myself, my mom, my little brother.
Because you were one that was there and understood it more than anybody ever would.
Exactly.
Because you experienced it with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It did.
And what lessons did you learn from writing the book?
I wouldn't call them necessarily lessons, but you have to. I had to stay focused. I was trying to make it. I was trying to be more or less, had to have this perfect timing, perfect situation,
Mhm.
perfect scenario, perfect space to write, you know, but I just had to write.
Mhm.
It wasn't going to be a perfect time or situation or day for me to write. I just had to
Just do it.
just do it. There were moments I'd I would be driving, something to come to my thoughts. I'll have a thought, write it down. I would carry a notebook in the car because once I made up my mind to do it, I knew I had to get it done.
Right.
And I would just write, just brainstorm, just write, you know. And I didn't think about editing I'm going to say the Bible, editing the book or anything at that time. I just had to just write. I just
Yeah.
wanted to get it out, you know. But before the book was published, the publisher out of Atlanta, the publishing company was called Favor to You. And it caught my attention because it was favor. The word favor was in it, right? And I connected with the person and we met in Atlanta. I don't know if you remember us going to Atlanta. Just before, this was after, of course, after Katrina. But I met the publisher, and you know what she asked me?
What?
Rhonda, you writing a book about mental illness. Do you know of any companies or any organization where you live at, where you're from, that you can partner with?
Right.
You know, and you tired?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
You know how I get sometimes.
All right. And
No,
I
just
was
like
like,
daddy with that.
oh my goodness, I know. So I was like, no, I don't. And she said, well, that's your assignment. You need to get with an organization. I suggest that for you,
Mm-hmm.
to do that. I said, okay, like that. So I came home, I started Googling, and I came across two organizations in the area. One organization called um, Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, and the other one was NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Yeah.
And I started to seek them out. I visited the organizations. I participated in support groups, in there, especially with depression and bipolar support. They were out in Metairie, and I started going to their support groups. But I'm gonna tell you what happened to me, and it had never happened to me before. I in that space, or in that type of environment, I was most often the only Black person there. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, I know we're suffering.
Yeah.
I
You know
know.
more people. Yeah. More people going through it than.
Yes.
Yeah.
But those were only two organizations that came up.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So was I going to be determined to continue to go and observe and see what it was about? I had to, because this motivated me to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
This really became a ministry for me that I didn't even realize was a ministry. My experience. But what happened to me at one of the meetings, they went around a table. You introduce yourself. They would separate the peer, the person who's actually living with an illness, and the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was at the family table, and we were going around introducing ourselves, and I noticed the gentleman that was next to me, his chair was pushed way back from the table.
Yeah.
He didn't want to come close to the table. And so after I finished speaking and after I introduced myself, he says, when it was his turn, he says, I don't like her. I didn't even look at the man.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it. I knew who he was talking about.
Yeah.
He said, I don't like her. But after listening to her story and her experience with mental illness, Um, I guess I'm okay with her. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, is anybody at this table gonna tell him anything? Because clearly he signaled me out.
Yeah.
All right. I'm the only black. So is anybody gonna say anything? Like, I want an ally. Somebody.
Right.
Tell him something, you know? Nobody said anything. So when it was over, when the meeting was over, I proceeded to leave. And I didn't tell him anything either because it caught me off guard. I really know how to address him because number one, you're at a mental health support group. You don't know if he's in his right mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't want to say anything that maybe
Trigger
him. So I didn't say anything. I just got up and left. He walked up behind me hurriedly. I'm like, okay, now what is he going to do? He said, oh, miss, I hope I didn't offend you. And I turned around at him and I said, oh, you didn't offend me. You don't know me. I said, but you have a good evening. And I walked out. But as I walked out the door, I heard the still small voice of God. And he said, okay, are you going to let that stop you? Or are you going to do what I ask you to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that could have been a big stumbling block because I could have retreated, got in the shell.
You say you ain't gonna go back no more.
And saying, but I was determined.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes when you know you have to do something, or when you know it's your turn, or when you know it's your assignment, you got to do what you know you have to do. Things are gonna try to stop you. You're gonna have criticism, roadblocks, stumbling blocks, but you got to be determined.
Yeah.
You got to do it on purpose, really. You have a purposeful mind, a purposeful heart to just do it. Do it afraid. Because I was fearful because I didn't know what to expect,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on this journey.
And it was something that you never was used to.
No, it ushered me into a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was putting myself out there, telling our story, you know, and my mom gave me her blessing. She said, no, I can't stop you from not writing this book.
Right.
You lived it just as I did, just from a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, but it's your life too. Tell it, you know, and because mental illness, it has, you know, the stigma, it's evolved over time. I mean, I believe things have gotten better, you know, it's accepted differently. I think in the Black family, we still have some work to do.
Yeah.
But
we just starting to accept it more.
Yeah.
And willing to really see how to make it better.
Yeah, and talk about it.
Yeah.
We have to talk about it.
But you know, we don't be trying to talk about nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's healing for not just you, it's healing for other people too. To know that people can live and be okay with how to.
Right.
Or be in a position of helping someone who needs help. It may not be nothing physically helping that person, but your emotions, how we relate, how we communicate with people.
Yeah.
You know, it's just different. I mean, you just say, oh, mental illness, you know, it's an illness like any other illness, but it's different. You know, it can be more exhausting. It's a lot of uncertainty.
But doesn't that make it worse? I mean, like one of the worst.
It catches off guard too.
Yeah.
Oh, it does, because you never know when that
know
person's not gonna have that moment. Yep.
You don't know when the moment gonna happen.
Exactly. Very traumatic too. But getting back to my journey of wanting to serve others is the more familiar people see I'm going to say this, the village has to seem familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was going to those environments. I was the only Black, but at the same time,
it was something you wanted to go and do.
Exactly.
So you
It
want
was
to
a
do that, you got to
need.
go around those people who,
It was a
yeah.
need, and God connected me with so many people,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, the life I lived as a child, who would have thought
Mm-hmm.
that I would be
Yeah.
serving in this way? And nobody couldn't tell me that
Right.
at all. At all.
Like I said, just but as you getting out of your comfort zone, just being different than everybody around
So it's bigger than that book. That
you.
book
Yeah.
was just a setup.
Mm-hmm.
I was set up.
So do you feel that was your greatest accomplishment from writing the book?
Writing a book was a big accomplishment for me. It really was.
No, I said, do you feel like you meeting and being around other people was the greatest accomplishment from writing the book?
Yes, because I learned a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it from other people's perspective. And a lot of times we think ours is so bad. Whew, there are a lot of stories where people really suffered way more.
Mm-hmm.
Way more. But then you have to have a heart for the children who are in environments where, and that's hopefully one day that will be my next thing is letting a child know that children grow up with, it could be a sibling, not just mine was a mother,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be a sibling going through a mental illness, and we don't realize the trauma or what a child may experience in going through that.
Right.
It's hard. It's frightening. And, just in New Orleans alone, alone is a traumatic place in many ways to me.
Yeah.
When you think about our, we're one of the leading cities for crime.
Yeah.
It's just different. People still recovering from, hurricanes. Every hurricane season, people get anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's
Because
going
we
to happen.
really still ain't back from Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not longer that was.
Yeah, exactly. Man, yeah. So, and I went for NAMI, for instance. That's who I volunteer for. I've been volunteering with NAMI since 2012, I believe. 2012. I didn't publish the book until 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just on fire with wanting to, tell my story, tell our story, because it's so much negativity a lot of times that you don't hear it from a positive perspective or enough positivity from it, and the journey me and my mom had, it was long suffering, but she was able to conquer, mental illness in many ways. There was a hope side to, learning and growing and understanding where she was or what actually happened to her, because she was no longer the person. And I know you hear me say all the time, she was no longer the person I knew as a child, but I learned her differently.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an easy journey, because for her, it was like she didn't want to be stigmatized. She didn't want to be labeled.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard. It takes courage for you to walk in the spaces of people, individuals, and they know something up or know what your struggle is.
Mm-hmm. And probably hesitant because they don't know if you're gonna be easily triggered or not.
I wonder how she is today.
Yeah.
But she helped us. She helped us understand today may not be a good day. And you picked up on a lot of stuff too with her. A tone in her voice may be different.
Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize that until I got older, because I never knew something was wrong. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to be with them every summer.
Every summer. Yeah. You just probably thought, oh, she's just having a bad day.
Yeah.
Or just
That's all it
normal
was.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not realizing something could be causing her to react this way versus this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But then she was medicated too. My mom took her meds faithfully. She was compliant. She wasn't always compliant. It took many years for her to get to that phase. Because statistics says that it takes, on an average, once a person is really diagnosed with a mental illness, it may take them between 11 and 12 years to be compliant.
Yeah, because they want to be in denial about it.
Well, it's not a denial per se.
I don't want to be dependent on it.
Well, when they take medication,
yeah,
when they take medication, meds or antidepressants or whatever, it appears to them that they've better. So if they're better, they don't take the medicine.
Right.
That's just like with us with antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. They say take these antibiotics for 10 days straight.
Yeah. And after we feel better, we think we don't need to take it no more.
Do you ever finish the 10 days straight? We try to.
Right.
We should.
Or they tell you don't drink while you're taking the medicine. You start drinking.
And it changed the whole effect of the meds. You know, they're not as they're not as efficient as they would be if you didn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
You don't drink with medication?
Right.
Yeah, That's a good point. Yep. Yeah. But another thing I learned, when you have an assignment, you have to be determined to complete it in its entirety. You know, people have asked me, you're going to write another book? And I am, because this book here, I left it like a cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. And the publisher told me it was almost to make myself accountable to do it again. Mm-hmm. And I think this time around, when I do it, I'll be even more free, because at the time I wrote this book, even though I had my mom's blessing, I think in some ways she still was a little not afraid or shameful. People don't always know what you're going to say or what you're going to bring out.
Right.
So I wanted to cover, some things, cover her.
And you're older now too.
And I'm older now too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some more authenticity will come out of that, with the book, and be more transparent, So I'm looking forward to that. I am.
So am I.
I know. But I'm going to tell you about the part about the family. Like when as I was getting older, I felt isolated. I felt that nobody wanted to help me in this journey with my mom. So I had some resentment.
Yeah, because they probably looked at it like they ain't got to deal with it because they ain't their mom, or,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, that's your problem.
That's their household.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm like, you left this young child to deal with this? This is hard. It's not easy at all.
Again, that's your household. They ain't worry about that.
Man. So,
yeah.
So, I grew up with, some unforgiveness there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did. And it was hard for me to even believe that your family loved you. Like, the love wasn't in action during that period of time. Mm-hmm. They left me stranded.
Yeah, do y'all really love me?
Yep. Now Grum and my aunt, they were there for me when I needed an escape. Mm-hmm. Because there were moments when it just got really hard.
Yeah.
I just couldn't deal with it. It was just too much of, it was psychosis. It was just out of the mind behavior stuff
Mm-hmm.
going on. Like how you deal with this. And, it got to the point, had to call the police, because you don't know if that person's going to harm themselves, harm you. It got really bad at times, but then you don't know what's going on in that person's head either.
Yeah.
And so I learned.
You learned what?
Forgiveness. I had to learn how to forgive.
I was about to ask that.
Oh, you were? Wow. I had to.
I was about to say, just like, what made you think about or switch your mindset from being unforgiving to want to forgive people?
Just as she couldn't control how she was at times towards me, because me and my little brother was 10 years apart, so there's a lot of things he just didn't experience because he was so much younger than me, in those early stages. But I had to forgive her or pardon her from her actions.
Right.
Because as time went on and I learned differently, she couldn't control some of that. So I couldn't hold it to her.
Right.
And she was my mom. She was the one that was taking care of us. She was there. She was the one that was there. So if she couldn't control it, I couldn't hold it to her.
Right.
I sat in therapy sessions with her. I went to the doctor visits with her and stuff like that. So if I could forgive that, not knowing, there's a lot of disappointment in that. I had to find a way to forgive her so I can live with her and be okay with it. So, because there were periods where she would bounce back and say, "Ooh, this is my mama here." And then there were periods like, "That's not my mama. That's clearly not my mama." And when you educate yourself about any illness, you know the difference, or you have a better understanding of what to expect. Okay. So for me, forgiveness was a key practice I had to do. And as I got older, forgiveness is a part of life.
It is.
Forgiveness. I was thinking about forgiveness one day, and forgiveness is critical, because if you can't forgive, that's like having cancer. It'll eat away at you. It'll paralyze you.
Man, that's why a lot of people are miserable.
Unforgiveness will isolate you too.
Yeah. For sure.
Yep. So forgiveness for me became a practice. Like, is really a commandment. We're commanded to forgive people because people are going to mess up. They're going to say something you don't like.
All the time.
But when we went to this church in Covington, forgiveness is very important to your life for you to move forward. It is. And if you choose, and it's a choice, we have to choose to do it. And the quicker we do it, the better it is for us. Yeah.
Because people still going to be people.
And I can't control people. Can you?
Nope.
Who can we control?
Ourselves.
That's it.
That's it. So,
that's it.
What's up with you in this Jeremiah 29:11?
What's up with it?
What's up with you with it? I didn't say what's up with it. I said you.
That's your favorite one, huh?
That's why I gotta tell them all.
I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, but to give you a hope and a future. I just paraphrased it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I think about that scripture, everything that has happened, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Mm-hmm.
the sweet, the sour, the heartache, the pain, all of that is to mold us into who we are and who He purposed for us to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And with that said, we still got a hope. We still have to stay focused. We do. Because guess what? In the end, it's going to be a better future. It will. Thank God. Thank God. We don't see it like that while we going through it.
Yeah.
But it's all for us to be better and to mature us. Everything's temporary. And it's temporary. We can't stay stuck in that. It's gonna change. But our hope have to be in believing it's gonna be better. And it is.
Every time.
Every time. I'm so thankful. I'm
we
grateful.
Go through prepares for where we're going.
Say it again.
What we go through prepares for where we're going.
And for us to what? Pay it forward. Because what we go through is not just for us.
For everybody.
It's for everybody. And that's what I learned on that journey of this ministry I'm in, helping others. I'm a family support group facilitator. I teach family classes to help people recognize mental illness, how to communicate with someone who's struggling, how to understand the brain physiology, what the brain goes through. It's a lot. We got to take care of ourselves, and one other thing I want to mention, self-care, going to that brunch, that caregivers brunch. Self-care is so important. We have to take care of ourselves. And I didn't learn anything about self-care until later in my adult years. I was just putting everybody first because what'd you want to say to that?
Learning from when you met that nut.
Oh gosh.
I see it, please. You ain't want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-care is important, for our own healing journey. It is. And it's not about being selfish. It's a must.
Because the better you are is better for everybody else around you.
Right.
That's why you got to take care of yourself.
Right. How can you take care of anybody if you don't take care of yourself?
Exactly.
So I was really sacrificing in a way that was unhealthy for me.
Right.
Because when you don't give self-care, that's not good.
So, quick question though. Do you feel the times you sit down and write your book that wasn't giving yourself self-care?
I didn't look at it as that.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it as that.
Because that could have been your way of giving yourself self-care because you're taking your mind off of things and you're writing it down.
Since you say that, yes. Yeah. I was taking time out for me. It was writing, but it was taking time out for me. Yeah. Yep. Good point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was good wisdom.
But this is my mom's book, For the Love of Bipolar. I have a description and link to click on to purchase. Thank you for talking about it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Oh, I love you.
I love you more.
I love y'all.
This is another episode of WeakLEE Podcast. Man, open, honest, vulnerable. Tune in next week. And this is the WeakLEE Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tune in next week.